Okay. Excuse me.
With all the best gear, including Fender, Epiphone, Yamaha, and more, CA House will have you rocking in no time. Get the most for your money with everyday low prices. And we meet or beat internet pricing. Play before you buy and let our product specialists help you pick out the instrument that's right for you. CA House Music, supporting local musicians since 1872. Play music for life.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster with a look at your local weather forecast for your Monday. Cloud, sunshine mixing, a daytime high near 75, overnight low of 52 degrees under mainly clear skies, mostly sunny skies for your Tuesday with highs near 80 degrees. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
News, information, conversation, controversy, and fun. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
51 degrees, temperature moving up nicely, 51 degrees and clear skies at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 50 here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and 50 degrees and pretty clear, a little clouds floating around at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley, 72 for the high today, maybe a stray shower, clouds in and out throughout the day today. Tomorrow, pretty much a perfect day, 77, sunny, and going to warm up every day this week till we hit the mid-80s by the end of the week. So it's going to be a very summery feeling week throughout the week. A little bit later on this morning, we'll talk about the issue of unemployment insurance, the federal unemployment insurance benefits that have been offered, extension of benefits by the federal act. And is that keeping people from applying for jobs in the restaurant and retail business? That's the premise that a lot of states are operating under right now. Sean O'Leary coming in from the Center for Budget and Policy in West Virginia. And he says the data really does not back up the common misconception about that. And also 60 Minutes did a deep dive into U.S. military investigations into UFOs, or UAPs, they call them now. I don't know why. Unidentified aerial phenomenon. We'll take a look at what 60 Minutes had to say last night and actually listen in on a couple of Navy folks as they watched live a UFO appear on some of their computer screens. So I got all that coming up. Something on your mind you want to share with me, you know what to do. Use the text line, 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600, the Watchdog Radio Network text line. Before I get to my guest in this segment, a couple of leftovers. I didn't have the clock hit me before I could finish up the segment on masks and who's going to be, some stores are going to let you wear them, or let you go without masks. Some are going to still have mask requirements and so on. Howard Gamble from the Ohio County Health Department points out that there are still places, despite the CDC guidance or even the governor's rulings, there are still places where you'll need to wear masks no matter what. Going into a hospital, going to a clinic, that, for example, those are still going to be required. Healthcare places will still require it. Airlines are still going to most likely still require masks. So despite the CDC guidance and the follow-up from state executive officials across the country, you still have to be careful. There are places where you're going to have to wear your mask because of guidelines. Also, keep in mind that even if you're vaccinated fully and you have an immunosuppressive disease or you take medicine that suppress your immune system, you probably still want to wear a mask. So if you're in a high-risk category, even if you're vaccinated, mask probably a good idea, at least until everybody or many more people get vaccinated. This weekend, our good friend, the Reverend Cummings, is going to be holding a drive-through vaccination clinic up in North Wheeling at the Dream Center in their parking lot there, where he holds his food giveaways and so on. It's a drive-through vaccination clinic this Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Excuse me, that lingering cough still there. I do apologize for that. It'll be open to tri-state residents. No rules of residency required. Just show up, 12 years of age or older. They will have, actually of your choice, of a single-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine or a two-shot Pfizer vaccine. You can request whichever one you want. And it's really important. We've got to try and get more and more people vaccinated. So Reverend Cummings, in working with the local and state officials, putting this together. Vaccination clinic, drive-through vaccination clinic, should speed things up pretty quickly this Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then later on today, Governor DeWine from Ohio is going to detail the $1 million lottery plans for folks who are vaccinated. You can be in the $1 million lottery. I think there are 5 of them, 4 or 5 of them, 4 or 5, if he said 4 or 5.
5.
I think it's 5. I think it's 5 of them. So
yeah, it's
$5
5
million lotteries. Jeez. Not to mention full ride scholarships to state college universities. So that would be an incentive for you to get your vaccine as well. Please, if you're not vaccinated, go out and do that. All right, it's 8:14. A little behind time here. It struck me this morning that Senator Manchin is almost like a one-man economic development team, at least for radio and TV stations in West Virginia, because his vote is so important on so many different issues that every side of these big issues is spending a lot of money to try and convince us to convince Senator Manchin to vote their way. One of them that we are seeing a lot of here on this radio station is the For the People Act, this revision of electoral reform, basically. We had a lot of ads running supporting the For the People Act. I noticed this morning we have some beginning people criticizing it, saying, call Senator Manchin, tell him to vote against this political power grab. I want to talk about that and about some of the problems that I think are being addressed inside this. And to help me do that, former West Virginia Majority Leader Rick Staten is here with us. Rick, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
So you wrote a piece that caught my attention recently on the issue of dark money. I think most people know what that is, but it's basically outside influence money that comes in, advertises in the state, whether it's on air or with flyers and so on. And to a larger extent, it's called dark money because we don't even know who these people are most of the time, right?
That's correct. I mean, I could form My Favorite Dog pack and not reveal who donated to it, and you would never know the source of that spending.
And they always come up with something pretty cute and clever, like save the people from anarchy actors. So it always sounds like something that you want to support, right?
Exactly. It makes you, no matter which, and all sides of the political spectrum do it, but it does make you feel that you're, invested in the outcome of that spending.
Part of the problem that I have with all of this spending, and believe me, we're happy to take their money, but
right.
Part of the problem I have is you never know what to believe. I mean, again, we've got two separate types of ads running right now on this radio station. Call Senator Manchin support the act, call Senator Manchin oppose the act, and the information they give us is almost diametrically opposed to each other. How do we even know what the truth is?
Well, the more simplistic answer is to read the bill yourself. It's a long bill, but the provisions of dark money, especially, are not that long. There's some congressional groups that are nonpartisan that have put out some fact sheets that you can look up to see what they would do, and they present those positions in a neutral fashion. So it doesn't say things like gets rid of dark money. It will say eliminates independent expenditure without transparent reporting. So I'd encourage viewers to look those things up to make their decision.
And then, of course, it would be really helpful if you knew who was behind some of this stuff, but that's why the money is called dark money. We really don't know what individuals or what groups are funding these things because they come up with the funny names, and that's all we know.
Exactly, and that's the reason why I feel it's such an important provision of that comprehensive bill. Years ago in parts of the state, we had cash money given out for political campaigns to literally buy votes. We had an elected official caught in the back seat of his limousine handing out cash. That was dark money. That was buying votes. You didn't know where it was coming from. The same is true here. And I think there's nothing wrong with transparency. I see, I differ with some of my friends in saying there's nothing wrong in having these kind of political action committees, but they need to report where the money has come from and how it's being spent. That's my play on it, if you will, is we need to see where it's from and where it goes.
Yeah, if we know it's from, and I'm trying to come up with an example. I can't come up with one, but if we know that it's an insurance industry funded advertisement, then we can get some sense of where the perspective is behind it. Or that was not a good example, but if we have an idea who's funding these things, then we have a better idea what their bias is to begin with.
Correct. The examples I give are from two political extremes. If you have one on the left that's sounded by George Soros, then you know where those funds are coming from and what the position is. If you have one on the right that's sounded by Koch Industries people, then you know where they're coming from and what their sources of income are. So you can just look at that and then make your own judgment about whether there's a lot of veracity to the ad, or, as you're saying, if it's just kind of playing up their own position and giving hyperbole to the position that they have.
One of the ads actually that's running on our station today, I noticed, is it calls the For the People Act a political power grab. Is a partisan power grab, I should say. Is the For the People Act, in your mind, a partisan act?
No, I don't think so. I think those attacks are largely at some of the provisions that deal with things like early voting and same-day registration. And to be honest, I think there are certainly arguments about the national government's role in that. But the dark money provision is something we all can agree on. We need to know, it's very expensive now to run an election, and we need to know where the money is coming from that's funding these candidates or the causes for these candidates.
Yeah, I think it's very important. By the way, I have the same. I support the act, but I do have the same concerns about a little bit of federal overreach into what is essentially a state issue, which is election reform. But we've got to start the process somewhere, and I guess I support the act, but I do have some concerns about federal overreach maybe here. I just throw that in for the record, I guess. What are the good parts of this act?
I think that I think the dark money is far and away the best part of the act. I do support aspects of the act which at least encourage more precincts, more voting. You have people who don't want to stand 5 back in line at Walmart, yet they're expected to stand in line for hours to vote. And I think the debate, especially in a state like Georgia, has been lost, not on whether you should be able to give out water to people standing in line, but why are they standing in line for hours to vote to begin with? And the solution to that is more precincts and more precinct workers. West Virginia does a great job of that, of having machines on standby if there's an overflow and things like that. And I think when you see situations like you do in some of these other states where precincts are closing, one county in Texas had hundreds of thousands of people in one precinct, then there are times, like there were in 1965 with the Voting Rights Act, where the federal government has to step in.
So, on balance, this is an act that you think Senator Manchin should vote for. And again, Senator Manchin is going to be a key vote here. I think he's already said, though, that he's not right now leaning towards it. Is that correct? Do you know that?
Yeah, and I think he has some legitimate concerns that I would like to see Congress do, as I would like to see it do with lots of legislation, and that sit down and work it out. I don't see this bill as an all or none, and being practical, I think that Congress should sit down and say, okay, here's what we agree on, here's what we don't agree on. Let's separate those things out and pass the things we do agree on. I think you'll see wide support for the regulation of the dark money provisions, and I think that's one of the things that they should pick up and run with.
We're talking to Rick Staten, who is an attorney in Charleston now, but previously served as majority leader for the State House in West Virginia. Rick, here's an issue. I agree with you. That is the way everything should work. Let's say that we all agree, Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, old, young, whatever. We all agree we've got to make some fixes. Let's figure out which ones we can agree on. That makes perfect sense. That's this whole concept of bipartisanship. The problem I'm finding in 2021 is, and maybe you don't see it this way, both sides, although I will say right now it seems to be more entrenched on the Republican side, aren't really interested in looking for compromise or fixing a problem. The problem they see is the other guy succeeding. This political divide is so strong, I don't know that you can sit down and work out the kinds of compromise you're talking about. Maybe you see it differently than I do.
No, actually, I agree with you, and I decry frankly, this division and partisanship that exists in the country. It's reflected at the national level, but we see it at the state level. When I was in the House, we had very few strictly partisan votes. The first bill that I voted on as a member was when we were in the financial crisis to increase the sales tax, and one of the people who got up and spoke in favor of it was the Republican leader. I don't think you would see that happen on either side right now, and I think that's disappointing, and I think it doesn't lead to good legislation.
I agree. I don't know how we get around that, because that seems to be where we are these days, and whether it's at the State House in West Virginia, and it seems to be there, as well as in Congress and the Senate. The big thing is make sure the other guy doesn't get any points. I mean, that's what it really boils down to, and I don't know how we get around that.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's kind of a groundswell. There seems to be a lot of support for people pushing for bipartisanship. I think you're seeing that reflected in polls now on things like dark money voting, where voters are saying, wait a minute, this is something we can all agree on. And I think that we have to push to reflect that in our elected officials.
Do voters have a greater responsibility these days to make their voices heard simply because there is such a partisan divide among elected officials?
I agree with that for two reasons. Yes, for what you just said, and second, at least for now, we need to drown out the cacophony that's coming from these dark money campaigns, just like the ones that you've cited that have been on your station today. So the voters need to be heard, and if they can do that, I can tell you from experience, it may sound trite, but letters to your representatives do turn heads, and being active in those sort of campaigns, shooting off an email, making a phone call is part of that effort, I think, to try to turn these things around and make people sit down and talk.
Rick, as a former legislator, when you looked at this past session of the legislature, what did you think?
To be honest with you, I was appalled, not at the Republicans have a different agenda than the Democrats, and I expect that, and that's just the nature of winning and losing elections. What appalled me most has been the loss of decorum and respect and civility between the members. You had this famous incident where a House member made a very crude remark to a senator about the governor. That's something that I wouldn't hear on the street, much less in the halls of the Capitol. And several examples of that I watched or listened to on the floor, and I don't know what's happened to that causes that. I honestly think that's a leadership issue where the president and the speaker need to be more strict on members when they violate those decorum and civility rules, and it shouldn't be allowed in the halls of the Capitol. They're elected representatives, and they should reflect the values of their constituency, and I don't think that sort of remarks or antics reflect those values.
Yeah. Rick, I appreciate you. Excuse me. As you can tell, I'm battling a little bit of a cold. I do apologize. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much. Thanks for offering some thoughts on this. I think dark money is a real serious issue. I probably, as you pointed out earlier, I'm probably a little bit more on the let's try to control the amount of money side as well. But the very minimum, at least, is transparency. The very minimum is having knowledge of who's behind these things, and not just the clever names for the sake of the children or to save America or I love West Virginia. Let's know who is it behind this. At least that way we know what filter to run them through when we hear these ads. I appreciate
Exactly.
your time today. I appreciate your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a great day.
All right. Thanks a lot, you too. Rick Staten is an attorney down in Charleston. Previously was the majority leader for the House of Delegates in West Virginia. Also was a deputy cabinet secretary for the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, and wrote a piece on this dark money story recently that I came across, and I thought getting his take on it might be interesting. One of the things that I think might help in America today, help get over this partisan divide, maybe get people to focus on real problems, not the political debate problems, would be a better informed citizenry. Oh my God, that just sounds so trite, doesn't it? But you know, whatever happened to basic civics classes in school, Biff? I mean, you learned the basics of civics at Central, I assume, didn't you?
Oh, I had civics, and even in grade school, we had West Virginia history. So
Yeah.
we had that. We had civics. Learned how the government works and everything. I think I pretty much had it all.
And therefore it makes you a better informed voter. The problem is, and when we come back from the news break, I've got some statistics on how poorly informed the students of today are about the basic running of government. And then there's some efforts being made at the national level to revise our civics education classes, and it's getting all caught up in this political divide. Oh, we can't allow people to be teaching that because the liberals may teach the wrong kind of civics. I'll get into it. We'll talk about it coming up in a minute or two. It's 8:32, 28 before the hour, 51 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Also coming up, some talk about UFOs. But first, some news.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now,
Biff, I will again take another break since I was behind on this one, so I'll take one more break in this half hour. So you don't have to squeeze everything into the first. You don't have to squeeze everything into this break. And thanks for checking on his pronunciation. I appreciate that.
Dog. Want to buy your own home but think you can't afford it? What if you got down payment assistance or a discounted interest rate just for being a recent college grad, teacher, nurse, or veteran? The Ohio Housing Finance Agency offers this and more, and our programs are always available for eligible Ohioans, big city, small town, and everywhere in between. Find out if you qualify at myohiohome.org. That's myohiohome.org. Home ownership, ready when you are. This is Education Matters with Ohio Education Association President Scott DeMauro.
As we head into the final weeks of this extraordinary school year, we must remember the final weeks of the COVID-19 pandemic likely are not here yet. We must remain vigilant about all the safety precautions that have allowed us to safely teach in person. Mask wearing remains critical to stopping the spread of the virus and keeping us all safe and learning together.
Education Matters, brought to you by the Ohio Education Association.
Most of us are faced with uncertainty every day. Your job, your finances, sporting events, schooling for your children, and so much more. With so much uncertainty surrounding you, there is one auto dealership that you can be certain about, and that's Doan Ford. You can be certain that you always get a great deal and the best service afterwards. Being in business for over 50 years has given Doan Ford the reputation of being a strong, reliable dealership. Be certain. Choose Doan Ford. Online at doanford.com.
I'm not buying till I check Doan Ford.
Coleraine. The watchdog is protecting your yard. Join Howard Monroe, Hoppy Kercheval, Bill DeFabio, and Big Rick for the best live and local talk in the Upper Ohio Valley and beyond. Coleraine trusts the watchdog.
You can vote in our Watchdog poll and read commentary in our blogs on watchdognetwork.com. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
Must be getting early. Clocks are running late. Can't light up the morning sky. Looks so full.
51 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. Partly cloudy, mainly sunny outside right now. Kind of clear, at least, let's put it that way. We will see some clouds throughout the day today, but it's going to be a warm week this week. So be prepared for the apparently the arrival of summer coming in. Of course, not surprisingly, because we're getting closer and closer to Memorial Day, the beginning of the 100 days of summer, as I like to talk about it. Tomorrow on the show, and I don't want this to be a bummer, but tomorrow on the show, we'll take a look at a new report being issued tomorrow morning on West Virginia's drug, suicide, and alcohol deaths. Not a happy story necessarily. Oh, maybe it is. We'll know the numbers in the morning. Maybe we're going to be seeing an improvement. But we're going to be talking about the numbers who are dying from drugs and alcohol and suicide, and how is COVID-19 impacting all of that. We'll talk about that tomorrow here on the Watchdog Morning Show. It's 19 till the hour. We were talking with Rick Staten, former majority leader in the House in West Virginia, in the last half hour about this For the People Act, the Campaign Reform Act. You're hearing just on this station and all across the area, groups lobbying for the people and against for the people. And we were talking a bit about that act. It strikes me that, I think we need campaign finance reform, campaign election reform. We need to have more transparency in who's running these different kinds of ads on both sides of the aisle. We need to, I think, limit the amount of money that's there, although the Supreme Court has kind of made that a more difficult thing to do. But I think maybe one of the things we need is a better informed public. And I know that sounds trite. And I know I just sound like the old guy on the radio giving a lecture. But I think we need a better informed public. Biffy, in 2018, the last year that we have actual numbers for, only 24%, less than a quarter of U.S. students were proficient in civics. Less than a quarter of students in this country really understood civics. Civics, government, the way government works. I think we should bring back Schoolhouse Rock. That's what I think. I'm just a bill. I'm here on the hill. I hope I'm a bill. You know, I think maybe Schoolhouse Rocks was the best form of civics education. But only less than a quarter, 24% of U.S. students in 2018 were proficient in civics. Well, it's no wonder that we have A, not enough voter turnout, and B, uninformed voters, or maybe I should say misinformed voters. We just hear the ads, oh, okay, and the ad we hear this hour, we go, okay, they're right, and the opposite ad next hour, we go, okay, they're right. We don't have enough background. I mean, I hate to be the critical guy, I hate to be the lecture guy, the point the finger, the bony finger of indignation guy, but if we don't understand how government works, if we don't have basic civics education, Biff, how in the world can people be informed voters?
Well, and I mean, look at the name of it. You put a fancy name behind it that sounds good. It's for the people. Well, it must be a good bill or
exactly
whatever. So people, oh, okay, must be good. Well, I'll vote for it.
Right. And we see this all the time on both sides of the aisle on Capitol Hill. An act gets, a bill gets named something that really has no bearing on what actually it does, but it sounds so good. Oh, who could possibly be opposed to that? And it requires us as citizens to pay a little more attention. And I'm probably lecturing a bit to the choir because people listen to shows like this are probably a little more civically engaged. But think about that, 24%, less than a quarter of American students proficient in civics. So, there is a bill pending in Congress that would try to improve civics education. It would basically send more money to individual states and school systems and so on to help in the teaching of history and civics. Help teachers get some better background in how to teach civics, how to analyze historical texts, how to assess, this is critical, how to assess the reliability of sources. When you have 10 different people telling you 10 different things, or 10 different institutions telling you 10 different things, how do you know which one to listen to and which one not to? You have to assess that. You have to actually take, okay, well, these folks don't seem to be very much based in fact. These people are. So you got to do that. Anyways, more of this money, the civics bill money, would send grant money to states and others for civics education. It would be used to promote free speech, civil discourse, understanding different perspectives, and developing civic habits like serving on juries, volunteering, and engaging in discussions of big issues. The money would go, and it's very clear, it's written into the bill, there would be no federal standards. There would be no federal standards. It would be money that would go to individual states, cities, school districts, and they would use it to develop the kind of civics program they want to. Now, I'm going into detail on this because now it's gotten to be a big controversial bill. And now the Republican sponsors of the bill are being pressured to to withdraw their support. Senator John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Cole, Congressman Tom Cole of Oklahoma, are sponsors of the bill, and they're being pressured to withdraw their support because Some of the far-right conservative groups are afraid, well, we'll be teaching liberal agenda. They might want to talk about teaching racial equality. I'm not kidding. That's what we don't want to get into this racial equality kind of stuff. And so as a result, they're trying to get rid of this bill and remove the funding that would go to help improve civics education. Now, backers of the bill are real clear. The text of the bill specifically prohibits the creation of any kind of natural curriculum. Those who drafted the bill say probably the civics classes will reflect the communities in which they are taught. So, in very conservative areas, the classes may tend to be more conservative leaning. In more liberal areas, they may indeed be more liberal leaning. But a good piece of legislation is about, once again, to get destroyed by this partisan bickering and divide that we seem to have all the time. We just can't get away from it. We just can't get away from it. In a letter to members of Congress from a conservative advocacy group, they say Republicans can't trust the Biden administration to implement the grants impartially. They believe that Biden will direct the funds to subsidize ideological, partisan, political activists. Again, the bill specifically says that can't be done, but I guess in this day and age, nobody trusts anybody anymore. I will say this. I give a lot of credit to Senator Cornyn, Republican, who is among the sponsors of the bill. He's being pressured to drop his sponsorship, but apparently he says he is not. He says it's a good bill. I'm not going to be bullied into dropping my sponsorship of it. He said the bill does not do what the critics are alleging, and I'm not going to be bullied into changing a good bill because of partisan political bickering. If we don't have a properly informed populace, if only 24% of the American students understand how government works, there is no way we can have an actually informed electorate. And without an informed electorate, there is no way we can have true democracy in this country. And that's probably part of the reason why we're having such a large percentage of people believing the lie that the last election was somehow stolen. It's depressing. And efforts made to change it, efforts made to improve civics education, being shot down because of political divide. It hasn't been shot down, but they're trying to. All right, that's my lecture of the morning. Hang on. Put the soapbox back now. 8:50 till the hour, 51 degrees, and UFOs are back in the news. 60 Minutes took a look at them last night. We actually have a little audio clip of a couple of Navy guys discovering a UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. We'll talk about it coming up on the Watchdog Morning Show.
Let your voice be heard.
Performs.com. Omni Strategic Technologies. The only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Quaker Steak and Lube at the Highlands is the perfect place to relax after a long day. Happy hour from 3 to 6 Monday through Friday. Get $2 off appetizers, $3 off domestic drafts, and house wine specials. Quaker Steak and Lube, voted Best Wings USA. Quaker Steak and Lube at the Highlands with another steal of a deal. Get a steak burger and fries all day Monday for only $8.99. It's also Military Mondays. The Lube will take 25% off for all veterans, active duty military, and first responders. Quaker Steak and Lube, voted Best Wings USA.
The timeless sounds of polka live here. Join us 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays for the Polka Showcase with Rich Biella. Sunday mornings never sounded so good.
We're on air, online, on video, and on demand. Find us where you like us. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
We've been doing more and more conversation these days about UFOs, UAPs they call them. Used to be unidentified flying objects. Now they're unidentified aerial phenomenon. I don't know why the military feels the need to change. I don't know. Do UFOs have too goofy an image? Maybe. So UAPs somehow are better. I guess. I don't know. More and more information coming and being released by, well, I guess information is a good word to use. More and more information being released by the U.S. military about U.S. military folks actually seeing UFOs, UAPs, tracking them, being concerned about them. 60 Minutes did a long piece about this just last night. We've talked about several of these stories recently. Video from, I think it was 2019, was released recently. It was declassified and released publicly, confirmed by the Pentagon as 3 separate strange things in the sky, tracked by, videoed by members of the American military. Remember we talked about this a few weeks ago. They were the sphere, the acorn, and the metallic blimp. And boy, when you look at these pictures, they are clear as a bell. There's something weird going on there. Another video just released this weekend. Again, I think this also goes back a couple of years, but it has been new video released from the USS Omaha, a combat ship. Shows what they call a transmedium vehicle. Transmedium means it's capable of traveling through both air and water, hovering around this ship and disappearing into the waters, just dropping down and vanishing. Here's a little bit of the audio from and listen to the way these guys, these Navy crewmen, seem to be stunned by what they're seeing. This is audio from that U.S. Navy ship that spotted a spherical object flying, then dropping into the ocean off the coast of San Diego.
Took off. Let's book it. Splashing and bearing a ring. Got you in the keep going, bro. Let's go down. Whoa, it's getting close. Whoa, it's splashed. Mark bearing a range.
It's getting close, and if you watch the video, this object sort of comes closer and closer and closer to them, and then hovers for a second, and then drops straight into the water. Unexplainable. And again, American military, they don't say a lot about this. They confirm this is indeed video from a Navy ship. The previous ones I talked about have been confirmed to be video from a military ship. I think they were Navy, I'm not sure. There is more and more video coming out. Now, the government now says, the Pentagon says they are going to release new information about UAPs, a declassified report, next month, because several members of Congress are asking for it. They're going, wait a minute, something is out there. You're now letting video come out. We can see these things. We know this. What is it? Now, let's be clear before I get too far. I'm not suggesting, nor is the military necessarily suggesting, that this is E.T. calling home. It may not be, UFOs may not be extra worldly. They may not be from, the planet Zebar. Probably the greater concern the military has is Are these machines that fly in the sky and that can do things that we are not even close to being capable of doing, are these some kind of craft from a foreign government? Is this something China's doing or something Russia is doing? They seem to have no propulsion systems, no planes, they leave no wings, they leave no contrails. They can go up and down, they can go sideways, they can go at speeds unbelievable. Unbelievable. Nothing we could match. They can fly in the sky and drop straight down and go into the ocean. And if you watched the 60 Minutes report last night, you saw a number of, they don't seem like crazy people. These are members of the American military, and in some cases ex-members of the military. One guy who was in charge of investigating these UAPs while he worked for the Pentagon, who tells stories about having seen these things. There was a couple of Navy folks who, on camera, and one of the woman who was a pilot even said, "I never thought I'd be talking about this on national TV." These vehicles, one particular vehicle, they followed and they tried to zoom down at it and watch it, and it turned around and it looked at them, and it kept getting closer and closer to them. And they say it literally got closer and closer and closer and closer, getting closer right into their window almost, and then disappeared. What is it? There's something there. I've said this before. Is the American military preparing us with this release of these things for some kind of great revelation when they do this declassified report to Congress next month? Are they going to bring out a little green man? Or are they going to say, we are so far behind the technology of other countries that they've developed, Russia, China, who knows, Iran, I don't know. Somebody has developed these kinds of ships that can do things we can't do, and we're deathly behind. Space is also going to be a new place for a race. China just landed a rover on Mars, only the second country to successfully do that, besides us. Space race is gearing up as well. UFOs, UAPs, they're back in action. If you have the ability to check the 60 Minutes online from last night, watch it. Fascinating story. It's 9 o'clock. We'll head to the news desk of ABC right now.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Meeting with the Danish foreign minister about.
All right, should be Sean O'Leary from the Center of Budget and Policy coming up next, Biffy. Thank you.